this film, Kane Parsons, you got Chiwetel Ejiofor, Renee Rentsev, and Mark Duplass, which I've seen a lot of chatter about, like, oh, Kane Parsons, he's a 20-year-old. He had a lot of, like, different higher-ups or different people on set that he could be more authoritative and kind of help guide the production. Did Kane Parsons really direct this film? I saw Mark Duplass kind of put out a video or a statement being like, yes, he directed this fucking movie. We were all on set, and he didn't need us on set. He could handle it himself, which I think that was a really good kind of vote of confidence from, yeah, hey, I'm a cast member, this is a movie I'm in, but also, no, this guy is real shit. Like, he can make a good movie. And do we get that with this movie? I think so. I think it was a really a fun movie that makes me want to go back into a lot of those Backrooms web series clips that you've talked about, ones that I haven't seen. I really enjoyed kind of the approach and the story that they pad out with the characters. It's not like the most deep dive thing. I didn't know, and it sounds like from what you brought up with those footage or found footage clips and the YouTube shorts, that it's something that's built by a company and not something that's necessarily discovered, like this concept of the Backrooms.
It kind of, from what I understand, like the thing I like about the series a lot too, and the movie, is that they don't really give you concrete answers about what it is. So like, from my understanding, the company kind of created this threshold and like wanted more storage space. One of them is like a promo video of like a company being like, yeah, we can store everything in here, and it's like in this little space. But it sounds like the Backrooms kind of build off of themselves and like expand and learn more.
Yeah, which you kind of get even in like that, I think, first initial trailer where it was Chiwetel Ejiofor's voiceover being like, it's like a room's memory of a thing or a memory of a place. This place remembers things. And I really dug, like I said, what they did with the characters around it, because going into it, I didn't know really what to expect in terms of like what each character was going through. I thought that those were kind of interesting attempts, and a lot of characters dealing with regret or just kind of issues that they've had in their own personal lives, of like a failing marriage and now maybe a dwindling career in this furniture shop. And Renee Rentsev is this therapist who's trying to help give potential solutions to Chiwetel Ejiofor and his struggling issues with his marriage and the repercussions of it. I think they had a great setup story-wise to get them both characters that I'm caring about, characters I'm interested in and seeing the outcomes of, and getting them to the Backrooms. And that initial discovery of Chiwetel Ejiofor going in or venturing in, and just the initial awe and like not knowing what he's finding and just kind of stumbling into stuff, and his thought process as he's venturing down into the Backrooms. And when he leaves, he takes a stool with him just to be like, is this tangible? Is this a real thing? Can I bring it with me? And I just liked, while they give you a good kind of basis for the story and for what these characters are going through, I like that they don't over-explain. I like that they leave things kind of up in the air, and that they represent or bring in, I'm guessing, whatever this, I forget what the company's name
Async.
is. Async. Bring them in, and Mark Duplass's character comes in with that as well. And you know that this is somewhat of a known, well, it's hush-hush, a known commodity of these Backrooms. I like that they don't over-explain it. They're still, like, feeling it out. Like, you don't know, like, it's something still to be studied. And Mark Duplass's character brings that aspect to it where it's like, we don't know. How are you being affected by this? And seeing the repercussions of someone having a presence in the Backrooms, and then the Backrooms taking, even if it was a short or a long instance, that person was there and running with it and developing it into something, or like a monster, or like kind of regurgitating like a memory of a piece of furniture, or kind of its own molding of what each character is going through. I really appreciated, like, some of the best parts of this movie are just them exploring and not knowing. And like, this isn't a movie that relies on jump scares, really. I really appreciated that. It's just uneasiness throughout. I think it's really well shot. I believe, since it's coming from Kane Parsons, that it feels basically one-to-one to like a lot of the shorts that were put out on YouTube, where it's eerie and uncomfy and existing in this like transitional space that we almost feels like it shouldn't be known. We shouldn't have found it. Like, this is a secret. This is a peek behind the curtain that we shouldn't have ever found. Yeah. And I really appreciate that. I think that this was not a blow your socks off amazing hit, best horror film ever made, but I think this is a really, really solid, borderline, like, almost great movie to me. I don't really have a lot of issues. I think maybe in the third act, you'll lose me a little bit. Sometimes we over-explain things with characters, and sometimes we leave things a little bit too vague. I'm like, it kind of, like, it doesn't feel like it hits, like, a fitting ending to me. And I know Kane Parsons has brought up, like, that this is an unfinished entity, this Backrooms, whether it's continued on in movies or YouTube shorts or whatnot. This story of the Backrooms isn't necessarily done. He has more in mind. He mentioned, I think I saw in an interview where he's like, I have, like, the ending built out. And I started with that point, and I've built backwards from it. So I know where it leads, and we haven't gotten there yet. So I don't know if I need another Backrooms movie, but I did really appreciate and really like this movie, and I thought it was a great watch. My wife was stressed the entire time. I was stressed for the majority of the time, too. So I really was not, like, blown away, but I was really surprised by the efforts, and I think this is a very enjoyable horror film this year.
Yeah, and we'll, in a second, maybe get into some spoilers just in that third act, because I also have a couple issues with that. But I think a majority of this movie works great. The opening sequence before we get the title is essentially just kind of another short, which is great, of one of these async employees just going through. Things like he finds a radio, and then he's walking through and just see shit like melting on the walls, and like from the furniture store, just like half of a banner, but it's backwards. Like, that's perfect. Like, sees a random bird flying through. That's great shit. Like, that's exactly what I loved about the series. But then, the two, it's kind of interesting of transitioning it to a movie now, where it's like the web series isn't about characters or story. It's just really concept. It's just the idea of it, and you're just watching these people go through it. So when you add in these new characters, it's kind of a new vibe. And Chiwetel Ejiofor, where there's a great therapy scene early on in the movie where him and Renata Reinsve, who is the therapist in this movie, where he's just kind of doing a role play thing of like his wife, when she kicked him out of their house and their marriage is breaking down, and you kind of mentioned too of being like working at this furniture store when he wants to be an architect, like all this type of stuff, and you care for him. You're like, you're just kind of down on your luck. And I agree that once he goes into the back rooms and just initially like goes through the wall and is like testing shit and then just exploring, that's what I love. Like that's what Backrooms. That's why people love it so much. And there's also a great scene of him bringing in a couple of co-workers from the store, played by Finn Bennett and Lakita Maxwell, when it's a great kind of smart thing to do where Finn Bennett brings in a camera, so it kind of gets back to that camcorder type filming aspect. And they're just like walking through, and some of the creepiest shit in this movie is in that sequence when there's like a slope or like a hill that they kind of go down, and like Finn Bennett goes down there at first, and he's like, there's just like laundry down here, and it's just kind of fucking weird. Like they try and pull him up, and then something pulls him back down. They all go back down. They get separated.
Some of the biggest scares, or the most freaked out I've been in the movie, was during that aspect.
Yeah, so that probably was my favorite like chunk of the movie, just seeing all that. And then it kind of does shift at that point to Renata Reinsve, who again plays the therapist, and you get more like backstory with her too, with when she was a kid and her mom was like very paranoid and like wouldn't let anybody in the house,
agoraphobic,
and then like the government or whoever came and like possessed the house or repossessed the house, whatever. And so you get like some good backstory with her as well, and then she kind of becomes our main character at a certain point once the crew goes down there. And maybe we'll get into a little bit of spoilers now, just as the capper on my generic thoughts. I agree. I really like this movie. It's so cool. It's very impressive from a 19, 20-year-old director making this movie. It builds on the kind of backstory a little bit of the shorts, but just go see this movie. It's really cool. But yeah, getting into some spoilers now. When Renata Reinsve becomes the main character, it was kind of interesting because I was really tracking with Clark. I think the main character, Chiwetel Ejiofor. It's easier to say his name than their actors' names every time. Clark is the main character, and then we kind of shift over to the therapist, and this is when I was like, okay, that's an interesting choice to kind of abandon what we've been building for this movie. And I really like her, again, just exploring the back rooms, and then we get to a kitchen scene where she kind of gets captured by Clark, and then there's really weird, just again, kind of uncanny valley, like people with like 6 eyes and like 3 mouths,
like a whole face that's glitching, basically.
Yeah, one dude that's like you can just take out chunks of his stomach and eat it.
Yeah, it's just foam, just like styrofoam.
It's like, oh, dinner, here you go.
Yeah, it's like, it's good.
It's great. And I think the scene is good. It really is kind of it's a callback to that therapy scene. And I thought it worked. I thought it was good still. But that's when it started to not feel as much of a Backrooms movie, where it felt like this is still a good movie and there's creepy stuff. But it kind of goes into this third act where a big... I don't know necessarily how they did it, but CGI-looking pirate Clark, from the furniture store commercials, where he starts chasing Renata Reinsve throughout the Backrooms. And to me, it turned into a bit more of just, like, generic slasher movie of, like, the villain just chasing you through a place. I'm like, oh, okay, I can see him right there. That's not what made the Backrooms creepy to me, was, like, somebody, like, you can see the person. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. Where is this? Which hallway am I going down? And it leads into her, she gets found by the Async team, and she's talking with Mark Duplass. I do love the ending shot of this movie. I think it's fucking perfect. Of Renata Reinsve, she's like talking to Mark Duplass, and like, seemingly gonna be returned to the main world, whatever. But then you just see one of the rooms in the Backrooms, and it's her face, but it's again just like a couple mouths and eyes, and she's just like sitting there, like as it is layers down in the Backrooms. Awesome ending shot. I love that. But just that last chunk where it was still a good movie, but not a great Backrooms movie to me.
Yeah, it kind of breaks away, and it felt like in that moment, which I really like that scene because it feels like Texas Chainsaw. Like it feels like the dinner scene in that, where Mary Reinsve's character is kind of being subjected to this weird addiction that Clark has developed with the Backrooms and understanding, which I liked that kind of development throughout the movie. I think that was done really well. All of the stuff in this movie did not feel like it was done by a feature directorial effort from a director. Like, this doesn't feel like a first-time director. This feels like someone that's really comfortable within the story he's telling, and it felt like some things are really confidently framed. There's a lot of, like, that therapy scene you brought up, it's just so well helmed, and it may seem basic of just, like, holding on a long shot of a character just basically going through an argument, but it just screams confidence that they don't think that they have to cut back and forth or do too much. Like, it's very subtle and it works really well. And then getting back to that dinner scene, it does feel a little bit like Texas Chainsaw, which I liked, but that's when it kind of bleeds away from what you're talking about, the Backrooms mythology, and gets more into like how I feel they felt they needed to wrap up a Backrooms movie, or it felt like they needed to have like a big climactic kind of moment with a entity, with a villain of the Backrooms, or a monster of the Backrooms, which it like worked to a degree, but as you kind of see more and more of Pirate Clark kind of roaming around, and which is played by Robert, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Robert Brodsky. He played the tall alien in Alien Romulus at the very end, and he's playing the pirate here. And after you see that presence, it kind of is like diminishing returns every time you see it. It gets less and less scary, which like that Backrooms is just meant to be uneasy and make you uncomfortable. And it lulls you into nostalgia while also just putting things a little bit on edge of like, well, that doesn't make sense, or that's not right. Or like, how would I have access to this room? Stuff like that. So I also, you brought it up, I love what they did with Mary's character, the therapist, and how they harken back to her upbringing and her living with her mother, who likely had some sort of anxiety disorder or agoraphobia and was afraid of the outside, or really, really maybe possibly schizophrenic and worried that she's being watched, and what that did to the inside of their home, and how it feels one-in-one to like what Backrooms looks like. So when Renata Reinsve is going through the Backrooms, she's like, oh, this reminds me of home in a weird, scary, fidgety way. But yeah, it is a great ending shot. I think a lot of that works really well. I love Mark Duplass in this movie. I love Mark Duplass and everything he's in. When he shows up, it's like, oh, there, my friend's here. So I really liked him. I really like the score. It's really subtle, but it works. Like, I think that this movie, like, it doesn't like shit the bed at the end in the 11th hour. Like, it's still a decent enough ending. It just feels a little bit more conventional. Overall, I was so impressed by the performances. I was impressed by the confidence of Kane Parsons behind the helm. I think like I said, the performances are great. Everything works so well to create a cohesive world of the Backrooms. And I don't know if I need like sequels to this movie, just because it feels like another contrivance of like, how are you going to develop a character and put him in this situation or put him in this newfound area. I did like the note on how they ended the film, like towards like those last 5 minutes before you get that last shot of like Mark Duplass just being like, all right, what did you see? Tell us. Because it's like, they don't fucking know what's going on. They're still trying to understand. And I like that just uncertainty with it. Like, if they knew everything about it, I would be like, oh, this is the Duffer Brothers writing about the Upside Down or some shit like that. This felt so like, we did something. Don't know what the fuck any of this is about. Help us figure it out. And I like Mary's uncertainty of like, what happens now? What's my tomorrow look like? I've been subjected and submitted to some really crazy shit. Am I free to go? Even like what's going on? So I really appreciated this movie. I think it was really well paced. I was never really bored. If anything, and this might be not like an error or an issue with the actual movie itself, it's more just like, I want to spend more time in the Backrooms. I want to see more weird shit. So now I'm probably going to watch a lot of these shorts this week. So I think that this movie, for especially being a feature directorial effort, a rousing success. The amount of money it's likely going to make its opening weekend, a rousing success. So thank you for the directors of Obsession and Backrooms. And Andre Overdahl, I know you tried with Passenger. I didn't like that movie, but like I like all the horror we're getting right now.
Damien McCarthy with Hokum.
I like that horror is having a big moment. We're having good performances in them. And they're also really well-made movies for the most part. Obviously, I'm not mentioning like Scream 7 or Whistle, but there's some really well-made horror films on like Academy. You got to pay attention to some of this shit because this is some of the best writing we're seeing this year. And also the fact that it's going toe-to-toe with some bigger, more sexier genre appeal like Star Wars and stuff like that. I'm really impressed by this movie and happy and satisfied as a horror fan of both this, Obsession, and just Hokum, everything that we've had the beginning part of this year for horror.
To make a very maybe weird comparison, you brought up Star Wars, Mandalorian and Grogu, we talked about last week, but sort of in a similar trajectory as far as like the movies where they are coming off of being based on TV shows.
Yeah.
And I think this movie struggles a little bit with that adaptation to the big screen as well, because I think that if you just split this movie up into like, you know, a bunch of different shorts, I think it would work really well.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Backrooms succeeds the most, is those little snippets where it doesn't have to make sense. You don't need a character arc really. Although I think that like the arcs in this movie for Clark and for Mary, like just the mental health of these two characters and finding kind of a comfort a little bit, you mentioned in the Backrooms, and how it's terrifying at first, but then once, like Clark especially, when he goes down there, he's like, this is my home now. I feel good here.
He's like, oh, yeah, you can hang out with him, you can eat this. That she just stands there sometimes. Yeah, she's fine. She doesn't do anything.
My old coworker's head is in the fridge.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Oh, yeah, we don't eat that. We just leave that.
Yeah, we just leave that there. So, like, I think all that worked well, but it is just kind of a thing where I think it was maybe a little bit challenging just to try and make it into a feature film, because you have to add characters. It's just, you can't do just a POV of a character you don't know for an hour and 50 minutes, really. But even though I'm really happy that we don't have more answers, I didn't want anything like solved in this movie.
No,
like, what is the Backrooms and how does it end, and who created it and who did all
Backrooms
this?
explained. Like,
right.
Don't fucking do that. There's no point in it.
I didn't want that, but I did want a little bit more of like Mark Duplass and the Async, the company, because it really is just like a shot that I really love after that opening scene where you see the footage of the employee walking through, and then the footage cuts out and you just see like 4 scientists just like watching the TV, and then it cuts.
Honestly, the scariest aspect of that.
Like, that's terrifying. That works so well in the shorts. So not that I wanted more answers with that, but I wanted more of like the scientist part of it, because you'll see scenes from the shorts where it's just like they're watching security camera footage and like doing experiments and shit, which is really creepy.
And I guess they could have explored that a little bit more, because they're kind of a presence. It kind of feels like an afterthought, and it's when they're brought in, it's never like fully acknowledged until Mark Duplass has maybe like 2 sentences of saying like, hey, like bare bones spark notes, this is what we are, this is what we're doing, and it's still like, okay, I feel like we could have had a better kind of introduction to this. But again, I like the vagueness, and I kind of agree with you. This, it coincides with me not necessarily needing another Backrooms movie. I think that this does a good enough job and is really satisfying, but again, it's just going to be the same story. It's just going to be random characters discovering the back, like what and what they go into the Backrooms. I don't need to explore everything. I don't need to understand everything. Nor do I want to, because the moment you do that, boom, it's not scary and I don't care. Like, I don't need a diagnosis of what actually is going on or what's at the middle of all this or what's going on. Like, I think that this is similar to what you said. It could play out almost in shorts, and it would work just as well. But I think still, this being my exposure to Backrooms mostly, it worked, and it intrigued me, and it unsettled me, and it got me some really unnerving moments. That moment where they're venturing down into that corridor with the dirty laundry, I'm like, ooh,
gross,
greasy. That probably smells like shit down there. And then it was terrifying. But a little bit of diminishing returns once you start to see some of like the monsters that they establish within the Backrooms, which I'm like, I feel like if we kept it more in shadow or kept it more to the side or let things kind of hide in the corners and let them just kind of seep out. I don't need a pinnacle, pivotal ending villain or a monster.
Yeah, and that's what they do in the shorts. I think I'm still very new to this, but I think people refer to this thing that pops up in the shorts as like the life form or the bacteria, where it's like a very tall, skinny, like kind of just like black figure where it's walking around, and that'll be like where people hear voices and they're calling them like, oh wait, we need to save this person, and then they go and it's just this thing that's like fucking spaghetti arms and around, and it's fucking terrifying. But you just see like a glimpse of it around the corner, or like somebody has their camera on it and quickly moves it away. So yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of in lockstep with this one, where it's a really good movie. This is such an impressive movie, again, from a new director, and translating the shorts and the idea, I think it works for the most part. I think the character arcs work for me throughout the movie. Even if the movie isn't a perfect Backrooms movie, I think it is a really good movie, just horror movie overall. So definitely go check it out. I'd maybe recommend not watching the shorts beforehand if you've never seen them, and have this be your first exposure. I think you may enjoy it just a tad more, not having that background to this, but still really cool and just fun to dive into that this week, and something that I really wasn't aware of at all.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good entry point.
Yeah,
like I don't think you need to do the homework. If anything, this makes me want to do the homework.
Right,
so I'm excited.
Yeah, so go check out Backrooms. Go see Obsession if you haven't seen it. They're both doing great at the box office. That's exciting to see.